Okay, now for the moment we've all been waiting for. Sir Howard Schweitzer, and we're going to all get into a song, and I hear this song is dedicated to Joe. Thank you, Howard.
My bandwidth is pretty low, so I'm hoping that I can be heard okay. I wanted to say Joe is, of course, a very valuable member of our group, and a second generation monetary reformer, and wealth of knowledge, and especially of the recent history at the line of scrimmage, you might say, is what he says on what's going on and regarding MMT, etc. So I have this song for Joe. It goes, the world bankers once tried to divide a brand new nation full of pride. They feared that it would go its own way and create money for the people to pay. Put the greenback back, put the greenback back, the greenback back in power. Put the greenback back, put the greenback back, put the greenback back in power. Lincoln did not understand, so Spaulding took him by the hand to show how the money could be free and save the nation's unity. Put the greenback back, put the greenback back, put the greenback back in power. Put the greenback back, put the greenback back, put the greenback back in power. Equity could get us through. The Fed says debt is all they do, all just to enrich just a few. Time the many got theirs too. Put the greenback back, put the greenback back, put the greenback back in power. Put the greenback back, put the greenback back, put the greenback back in power. Welcome my favorite greenbacker, yours and mine, Joe Bongiovanni.
Woo! Greenback back.
Back.
That will resonate for a while in my mind.
So will I start right here then?
I think Mary wanted to introduce you actually because she is your discussant.
Oh yeah, okay, Ducky, thank you. Hey.
If I could just
Thanks, but that was a fine introduction. I don't really have anything more to add. We're just so glad just to start out with you. Okay.
And if I could get a word in, we won't ask Howard to sing songs except for maybe at the happy hour at the end. If we could get some more songs if he's around, then that would be great. Thanks, Joe.
Okay, so I'm going to start off by kind of saying how glad I am to be here. Usually in Chicago, I say it's to be looking at all your faces live, but here in virtual format, it's still a huge pleasure for me to be here and be able to speak with y'all and to have a chat about whatever we think is important today. And that's why my focus is on Fredrick Soddy today here. I guess I want to also try to frame this discussion a little bit larger, if I could, and it has to do with what I consider to be the failure of the study, let's say the science or the quasi-science of economics, because I feel that the international movement against economics, when I say economics with a capital E, as in taught in the textbooks and in the universities, that for some reason yet to be determined, they fail to teach about the monetary system. So just like when the economic modelers admit that their models do not include money, debt, and finance, it's like, to me, well then, what are you talking about? I know there's a lot of things to measure and there's a lot of trends to follow and a lot of forecasts to make, but what about the people that live in the economy? Where does that come into the equation? What about the communities that we live in? How does economics inform us in terms of the bettering the communities? So in my opinion, it does not. And it does not because it lacks certain foundational understandings about how the economy works. And so I want to be clear that my criticism is not on economists, because economists had to go to the school that the endowment funds marshals will allow to be taught. And I'm going to just go back to the famous Dr. Laureate's description of Paul Krugman, now the Nobelist Nobel Prize, whatever, in economics, and that when he started at Princeton and he went to his advisor and he said, "What do you want to study?" And he said, "Money." And the guy told him, "Well, you can do that, or you can decide that you want to be an economist and you want to write papers that will get peer reviewed and positively, that you'll get your degree, you'll get your doctorate. Maybe you'll become a Nobel Prize winner someday. You can do one of the two. Either study money or become a Nobel Prize winner." And we know the path that Paul Krugman took. But what it says is that we don't do money here. We don't do money in our university. The monetary system is nowhere. You want to start reading about the history of the monetary system, and then to talk about how it has evolved. But it doesn't happen. So this is a critique of economics, period. Okay. And basically what I'm saying is they completely have missed the boat in terms of its relationships with the things that matter the most in the economy. And that is where we all live and work and buy and sell, and et cetera, et cetera. So how did I get started here? Well,
Joe, sorry to interrupt. Were you intending to share slides or not at this moment?
Not at this moment.
Okay, just
Okay.
want to check there. Thank you.
Yeah, no, this is my own introduction, if you will, of what I'm going to talk about. So many people here know my history and know the fact that I was kind of like just a regular young 1960s person when my dad started to try to teach me about money. And I was working on environmental issues and peace issues mostly at the time because of the war. But my dad used to kept telling me about stuff, and I would just say, "You know what, Dad? I'll get to that maybe someday, but I don't." So I'm sorry to say this, and it's an embarrassment to me, to be honest. But for years, I did that, and I just put it off and put it off. And finally, when my dad tried to convince me that I shouldn't move to Canada, because he wanted me to, and this was in 1971. And he said, "No, you need to be close by so we can continue to have a conversation." But in 1973, he said to me, and this was after we exchanged 20-page long letters in the post office, if we all remember that. And he said, "Look, I'll make you a deal." He said, "I'm going to give you a book to read. And if you read this book and you get from the start to the finish and you're finished, and you're not a monetary reformer, I won't bother you again for the rest of your life." Well, I took him up on that offer. I said, "Well, of course." So he and my mom at the time drove from North Miami, where they lived, all the way up to the Maritime Provinces in Canada in an old Ford Pinto, orange in color. And he drove into my driveway, he got out of the car, and he handed me a softcover copy of The Roll of Money by Dr. Fredrick Soddy. And my story here is this. I didn't read it I didn't open it until he left. But when he left, I started and I read the preface the first day. And when I read the preface, I stopped because I had seen so much in there that I knew I didn't really understand still. So the preface of The Roll of Money is one of the things that we're going to talk about today. Okay. But in reading the preface for a couple of days, I became interested in the monetary system, understanding the monetary system. And then after that, I will just say that it just kind of went on and on and on. And my dad and I got much and much closer. and we shared, you know, a lot more 20-page letters, to be honest. But really, that's how I got started. So I owe everything that I am, my ability to be here today to speak with you all, to my dad. And I praise him because I'm a high school graduate, okay? So the high schoolers are running the show here right now. But I learned it from my dad. And my dad was not a high schooler. When my dad was 15 years old, his dad got injured in a construction accident, and my dad had to drop out of school and go to work. So my dad only went to the 8th grade. So you're listening, all you PhDs out there that might be listening, and all you master's degrees, et cetera, you're listening to a high schooler who learned the monetary system from an 8th grader, okay? And I hope that it's going to be reflective of the fact that learning is what we do, you know, and teaching is what we don't do. And by that I mean nobody's teaching this, you know. So that's it. That's kind of my introduction. Economics is, in my opinion, a dead man walking as far as a field of academics as it is today, because it's no longer political economics. And in terms of the facts that we're gonna deal with, I'm gonna try to start my slideshow right now, and with any luck, and if everybody knows me, I need a lot. Okay, that didn't work. Let's see. This here, I'm pretty sure. Share, I'm pretty sure. That's that. And then everybody tells me if I go over here from the beginning, it might work. Let's see. So you can all see that. Okay, so I assume that was a yes.
Yes.
So what I'm going to really talk about here in a collective way, okay, is the joining, the confluence, if you will, of monetary reform, ecological reform, and economic reform, the works of Fredrick Soddy, and to have some considerations about how important it is today and why it's so important today. Let's see, I advance this by, whoops, this, okay. So I'm going to say Dr. Fredrick Soddy was a pioneering chemist of the highest order, an original thinker on nature's contribution to economic wealth, an author, and a person who saw apparent scientific advancement first in terms of its beneficial impacts of improving the well-being of the commoner among us. He was also the king's messenger. I only found that out very recently. I'm here to posit this question. Are the convergence of Fredrick Soddy's physical and socio-political system reforms to all of those things our best option for societies and for our planet's salvation today? Because he grew from a chemist, studying economy, studying the monetary system, studying the ecological system, being a physical scientist. Now, whoops, what happened? Whoops, sorry. Okay, so I mentioned earlier that when my dad gave me the book and I said, okay, well, I took it in the first day, the only thing I read was The Role of Money. True of the preface and The Role of Money. And true on the second day and the third day. I really read the preface for 3 days. It's not that long, as you'll see, but this is what it said. And this is what was the things that kind of like grabbed me, okay? This book attempts to clear up the mystery of money in its social aspect. With the monetary system of the world in chaos, this mystery has never been so carefully fostered as it is today. Now that would have been, but today is more true. And this is all the more curious in as much as there is not the slightest reason for this mystery. This book will show what money is, what it does, and what it should do. From this will emerge the recognition of what has always been the true role of money. Sorry. The standpoint from which this book on modern money are written has been reversed. The standpoint from which the standpoint from which most books on modern money are written has been reversed. In this book, the subject is not treated from the point of view of the bankers, like the MMT view, as those are called who create by far the greatest proportion of money, but from that of the public, who at present have to give up valuable goods and services to the bankers in return for the money that they have so cleverly created and create. This surely is what the public really wants to know about. It was recognized in Athens and Sparta 10 centuries before the birth of Christ that one of the most vital prerogatives of the state was the sole right to issue money. Lincoln said the same thing after he finally came around on greenbacks. He didn't say the state. The more profound students of money, and more recently, very few historians have realized the enormous significance of this money power. Sorry, I picked up that phone to call Stephen earlier. Have realized the enormous significance of this money power or technique and its key position in shaping the course of world events through the ages. Few students and a few historians. In this book, the motive approach and the philosophy of money is expounded in the light of a group of new doctrines to which the name ergosophy is collectively given, which regards economics, sociology, and history with the eye of the engineer rather than that of the humanist. We got to build with it. This book is concerned less with the details of particular schemes of monetary reform that have been advocated than the general principles to which, in the author's opinion, every monetary system must at long last conform if it is to fulfill its proper role in the distribution as the distribution mechanism of society. To allow it to become a source of revenue to private issuers through the Federal Reserve banking system is to create first a secret and illicit arm of the government, and last, a rival power strong enough ultimately to overthrow all other forms of government. So that part right there is the one that, you know, kind of should be the motivator. So this here is a notation that accompanied the Amazon sale page, because I went to look for the roll of money to see it online. $30 for hardcover, $15 for paper. By the way, my dad delivered me. He had a hardcover in his hand, and he gave me the paper cover. This work has been selected by scholars as being culturally important and is part of the knowledge base of civilization as we know it. Now, I don't know if they put that on there to sell more books or not, but it to me is a statement with which I agree. And I want to say that it's available online for free. Anybody can go there and get the full roll of money. This is the observation with regard to Eric Zenzi, who wrote in the New York Times an article on Mr. Soddy's ecological economy. He was here bringing in the fact that Soddy, you know, was an ecological economist eventually. Soddy distilled his eccentric vision into 5 policy prescriptions, each of which was taken at the time as evidence that his theories were unworkable. Can you say a monetary crank? The first 4 were to abandon the gold standard. Now, the gold standard, you know, think about how long it was around and how important it was for the bankers to keep the wealthy to keep their power. Abandon the gold standard, he said. Let international exchange rates float, he said. Use federal surpluses and deficits as macroeconomic policy tools that could counter cyclical trends. Hello, post-Keynesian economics. and to establish the bureaus of economic statistics, including the consumer price index, in order to facilitate all of this. In other words, you have to really know where you're going. All of these are now conventional practice. All of these were things that Soddy said were essential in order to have a money system that works. But his fifth proposal, this is still Eric Zinzi, the only one that remains outside the bounds of conventional wisdom was to stop banks from creating money and debt out of nothing. Banks do this by lending out most of their depositors' money at interest, making loans that the borrower will soon put in demand deposits, where it'll soon be lent out again and again to create more debt and demand deposits, and so on, almost ad infinitum. Now, I want to say I don't quite agree on that description, but that was Zinzi's description. Now, this is Dr. Soddy. In terms of his integrating ideas between between money and wealth, and this is a quote from Wealth, Virtual Wealth, and Debt, not from The Role of Money. He said, "You cannot permanently pit an absurd human convention, such as the spontaneous increment of debt from compound interest, keep going and going and going, all the money ever created is collecting compound interest for somebody, against the natural law of the spontaneous decrement of wealth, entropy, the entropy law and the economic process. Thus, in Soddy's view, it's a fiction to maintain that being owed a large amount of money is a form of real wealth." That's from his book, Wealth, Virtual Wealth, and Debt, subtitled "The Solution to the Economic Paradox." So these are some of the books. These are some of the books that Soddy's known for. The first, with the interpretation of the atom, was just one of many of the books that he wrote in terms of atomic chemistry, because we didn't have physics at the time. Okay, we had only chemistry was like the highest order of study. And then things that matter in terms of the ecology, matter and energy, science and life, science and man or human. And then the lectures in Cartesian economics, the bearing of physical science upon state stewardship. And that was another one of the things that really got me as far as having somebody like Soddy be the person who's informing our ability to do the Green New Deal. Then Wealth, Virtual Wealth, and Debt, which I just quoted, The Role of Man. And then Money versus Man. Now, Money versus Man, that's the book, and we find in the New York Times there was an ad. It said at the day, Professor Soddy, the physical scientist, applies the laws of energy, the laws of thermodynamics 1 and 2, to the field of economics, and it is that holistic perspective that we need today. As we're trying to advance, we need to restore political back to economy, and we need to take economy into ecology. We need to have that holistic perspective in order to actually do a good job moving forward. Now here it says money versus man. Money versus man versus man in conflict with money. Man in conflict with money? No, money in conflict with man. Money versus man by Fredrick Soddy. And you could see by the price at the bottom that you could get it for almost about a penny a page, which seems like a pretty good deal. But then when we look today on Amazon, Money versus Man, a statement of the world problems from the standpoint of new economics, hardcover from $350. So when some people went out and bought some gold and whatever, some people probably hung on to their Money versus Man books, and they're probably going to do better. Now, this was one of the things about Soddy that really kind of got me when I was doing some research. I never saw a headline like this, quite frankly, okay? Fredrick Soddy, scientist, is dead. Discoverer of isotopes, won the Nobel Chemistry Prize for pioneer work, was the king's messenger. I was like, I never knew he was the king's messenger. I didn't even know the king had a messenger. But for whatever reason, he was the king's messenger. And then they announced the winner of he died last night in the Royal Sussex Hospital when he was 79 years old. But I just found that in a way telling that the New York Times had to announce to the bankers of the world that Fredrick Soddy had passed on. And so then I want to just move into ecology. Himself a student of the British naturalist John Ruskin and others, known as the first environmentalist back in the late 1800s, really the mid to late 1800s, Soddy applied his physical understandings of the laws of thermodynamics to Ruskin's underlying views of the interconnectedness and interdependence of everything. Through that and other collaborations, Soddy is said to have founded the relatively new science of ecological economics. Today, Dr. Herman Daly is the country's leading steady-state economist, and still today, he utilizes Soddy's ecologically based teachings as the footing for his common good approach to environmental repair and sustainability. And I want to affirm and confirm that over the last year, I've had many conversations with Dr. Daly, and there's absolutely no question that he is a huge fan of Soddy. In fact, he sent me 2 papers of Soddy's that I had never read. So in terms of the ecology, Soddy's book, this was referenced earlier, Cartesian Economics, again, the bearing of physical science upon state stewardship of the physical planet, if you will, that we're on. The bearing of physical science upon state stewardship. And he did these in a series of lectures. These were a series of lectures in Cartesian economics. And this is how he started the first one. He says, it's my intention to bring the existing knowledge of the physical sciences to bear upon the question, how do men live? Well, we would say, how do people live today? This question ought to be the first that economists should try to answer. Okay, now I'm not having a little problem here because it's covering my slide. That economists seem to have forgotten that there is such a question, whilst the earlier ones, the modern economists, the earlier ones lived at a stage of the development of scientific knowledge when no exact answer was forthcoming. My own point of departure could not be better illustrated than by a quotation from Descartes and the aspects I propose to examine might be called Cartesian economics. And so that's how he got to study. So what was it that he quoted? And this is Descartes, not Soddy's. Starting from the forms of knowledge most useful to life, instead of from the speculative philosophy taught in our schools, academia, and knowing the forces and processes of fire, the air, the stars, and all of the bodies which surround us, as distinctly as we know the different occupations of our own workmen, we shall be able to employ them in the same fashion and to surrender ourselves as the masters and possessors of nature and to contribute to the perfection of human life. Now, I've heard criticism about that, but anyway, Soddy, from Ruskin a century ago to Herman Daly today, has provided the only truly holistic view of how to achieve the equitable sustainability of our planet and we, its inhabitants, beginning by understanding the thermodynamic-based workings of our planet's natural energy throughputs at all levels. With that knowledge, onward to sustainability. Soddy, from Nobel chemist to the solution of the economic paradox, which economic paradox can be described today as the knowledge needed to achieve the highest order of real national wealth production possible, and then through the most equitable possible distribution of our national wealth to its producers and to those in need of it, the study of parity economics. Dr. Fredrick Soddy. So that's the body and breadth of my talk. Fredrick Soddy, let's follow the leader. Let's change economics. Let's change ecology. Thanks for listening. Now, I don't know how I did with time. I have no idea. Shouldn't. Not too bad.
Thank you very much, Joe. There have been a few comments in the chats and people have added some excellent supplementary references, but so far not a single question.
Well, I'll be glad to look at those and people can have questions for me later. I probably stole some minutes here from the next speaker, so I apologize for that. And if nobody has any questions, I'll sign off.
If this video is helpful, please hit the like button, subscribe for new video notifications. Please consider donating at monetary.org/donate. Don't forget to check us out on Twitter at AMI Monetary or on our website